Isabella organized an insect-eating contest and called 911 in advance, just in case. The team leader asked David if he needed help, but the guy stubbornly insisted he was fine. The rescue team could only watch as they competed. That's when the members realized the ultimate prize was an incredibly cool giant lizard. Just then, David suddenly collapsed with a thud. The team rushed to resuscitate him. His airway was completely blocked. Defibrillators and ventilators were deployed, but a mouthful of crickets burst out. Isabella laughed. They ate the monitor lizard's favorite meal. That's what makes the contest thrilling. David's heart rate plummeted into ventricular fibrillation. Team Dr. Hahn immediately began CPR, but the obstruction was too large to clear. His teammates decisively switched tactics. She pulled out a laryngoscope, inserted it into David's throat, and yanked out a sticky, stringy mass of crickets. The sight was so disgusting the entire team took 3 steps back. David finally regained consciousness and his breathing gradually returned to normal. But now he resembled the Scorpion King from The Mummy, with locusts pouring endlessly from his mouth. All this fuss over a lizard? Oh, and the $500? David lamented his defeat. Meanwhile, Tasha stood nearby mocking him only to explode the very next second. The dragon lice apparently disliked Tasha's recent remarks, now crawling out in droves from her mouth. The emergency radio crackled with frantic calls. After eating just a few candies, little Mary suddenly convulsed in agony. Her mother exploded at her husband on the spot. "Why did you give her so much candy?" But when paramedic Sylvie saw Mary's dilated pupils, she instantly realized something was gravely wrong.
This isn't a stomach ache. She's high out of her mind.
Mom couldn't believe it. "My daughter is only 5. How could she have come into contact with that stuff? You must have made a mistake." Sylvie retorted. "What kind of candy did you give her?" The mother insisted. "Just regular fruit-flavored candy."
She must have gotten into my stash.
What?
I had a bag of edibles. She must have
Are
found
you
it.
insane?
I didn't think she was...
Where is it?
The father, pale as a ghost, rushed to search his stash. He discovered the entire bag had been devoured, leaving only a few pieces. The mother collapsed, screaming in horror. Just then, Mary let out a heart-wrenching scream as her body began convulsing violently. Watching her child struggle in agony, the mother's heart shattered. Sylvie immediately prepared a sedative, 1 milligram of midazolam injected, and Marie finally began to calm down. But there was no time to relax. Who knew what damage those high-concentration candies could do to a 5-year-old? The emergency team swiftly picked up the child and rushed toward the ambulance. Her husband tried to get in the ambulance, but Mom blocked him outside. She finally saw the true face of this junkie husband. Lisa mistakenly used industrial-grade glue as lipstick, leaving her upper and lower lips completely sealed shut. When Henny arrived at the scene with the 118 emergency response team, she found Lisa crouched on the ground, emitting desperate whimpers. Stella immediately stopped her from struggling further, as it could have caused her lips to tear at any moment. To help Lisa breathe, the paramedics inserted a nasopharyngeal airway. Watching that long tube go into her nose, the crowd couldn't help but gasp. Henny suddenly shouted to the crowd, "Does anyone have acetone-based nail polish remover?" A manicurist immediately offered her own bottle. As Henny carefully dissolved the glue with a cotton swab, the entire audience was more tense than the patient herself. When the girl finally managed to part her lips, the crowd erupted in celebratory applause. But the most astonishing part? She stood up and walked away completely unharmed, her legs functioning perfectly. Before the team could even catch their breath, loud arguments and the shattering of glass echoed from the rage room on the other side of town. Emily was distraught over her husband's divorce demands, so her best friend Denise brought her to the vent room. Denise suggested imagining the objects as her husband while smashing them. Emily readily agreed. They donned protective gear and began releasing their pent-up frustration. Seeing Emily held back, Denise began listing her husband's 7 sins. Just as Denise mentioned his poor performance in bed, Emily froze. She had never discussed this with Denise. Denise tried to defend herself, but Emily instantly understood. She had long suspected her husband's infidelity, never imagining the other woman was her best friend. Betrayed by both the people she loved most, Emily snapped. She swung the hammer, ready to strike Denise. Dennis screamed and dialed 911. By the time firefighters arrived, Officer Athena had already subdued Emily, but Dennis was trapped inside the metal drum. Emily's frenzied hammering had deformed the drum, pinning her inside. The constant noise had caused her ears to ring, leaving her completely deaf to the outside world. Firefighters swiftly cut an opening in the barrel with a chainsaw, then used hydraulic cutters to widen the gap. Dennis was finally freed. Though Dennis was the victim, she refused to see Emily locked up. Athena reminded her that if she wanted to play the good sister act, she should go bail her out at the police station. But Emily yelled from afar that she'd rather rot in jail than accept her fake kindness. As the farce ended and the crew loaded Denise into the ambulance, an emergency call came in from the renovation site. You'd never believe what it feels like to be buried alive in foam adhesive. Let Hunter, who always messes things up, demonstrate. Hunter heard his sister was renovating and rushed over to help. She was totally against it. After all, this guy had wrecked 3 toilets, demolished a dishwasher, and nearly burned the house down. Every time, she'd end up cleaning up his messes in tears. But this time, Hunter borrowed a bunch of high-tech gear and swore up and down it'd be perfect. He was going to spray that super insulating, soundproof foam. His sister was actually tempted. At first, it looked pretty decent, though the spray was crooked. At least nothing went wrong, until the pipe got longer and longer and got stuck at a bend. Rookie Hunter couldn't be bothered to check and just cranked the pressure to max. Then the pipe suddenly exploded. He got blasted backward by the recoil, tangled in the hose, and knocked unconscious. Worst of all, the machine kept spraying like crazy. The nozzle got stuck in the ceiling beam, turning the whole room into a foam hell. When the sister discovered it, she screamed and called the fire department. Even the rescue team was stunned. The entire room was filled with foam, and thermal imaging couldn't locate Hunter because the foam was too soundproof. The captain had to order his team to poke holes through the sister's freshly renovated ceiling with iron rods. Her heart bled, but she had no choice. Finally, Eddie breached the roof. They first propped it up with scaffolding, then used fire axes to chop through cracks. Chainsaws followed, slicing through wood and foam. When Hunter was pulled out, he was unconscious. Team Medic Han immediately hooked him up to a ventilator. Hunter gasped for air. His first words were, "My body's recovered. I'll keep fixing your house." Her sister cried, "Brother, I'd be grateful if you just stopped helping me." Meanwhile, the emergency dispatch center issued a new, urgent directive. Emma just wanted to give birth peacefully at home, but her husband secretly called the emergency team. Her cervix was only dilated to 2.5 centimeters, yet her body began to inexplicably overheat. Persuaded by the paramedics, she finally agreed to an examination. Her temperature shot straight up to 39.5 degrees Celsius, 103.5 degrees Fahrenheit, and her heart rate raced to 140. The team leader warned she must go to the hospital immediately, but Emma stubbornly clung to her original plan. The team leader sternly told her the risk of infection at home was extremely high, and if her heart rate kept rising, the baby's life would be in danger. Even the midwife she had hired urged her to go to the hospital. Caught between both sides, Emma finally relented. Just as she entered the elevator, a power failure occurred. Emma's contractions intensified relentlessly. By this point, her cervix had dilated to 5 centimeters. The pain grew increasingly excruciating. The captain decided to deliver the baby right there in the elevator. Emma exploded in anger, declaring her perfect birth plan was ruined. While pushing, she berated her husband, demanding a divorce. He endured the entire ordeal silently, offering gentle encouragement. Finally, Emma successfully delivered a healthy baby boy. Just as everyone cheered, Emma suddenly began bleeding from all orifices and lost consciousness. Her blood loss was alarmingly rapid. The captain immediately contacted dispatch for emergency blood bag delivery. The fire department was simultaneously called to breach the wall for rescue. After locating the position, the team began drilling through the wall, but Paul accidentally broke the drill bit, forcing the captain to smash the wall by hand. Inside the elevator shaft, the paramedic performed emergency CPR on Emma. The captain soon broke through a small opening, allowing the blood bag box to be passed into the elevator. Everyone raced against time to administer the transfusion. Outside, the firefighters waited anxiously. Ultimately, through flawless teamwork, Emma was pulled back from the brink. That day, Sophia called for help, complaining of a splitting headache. The paramedic who arrived was stunned to discover the cause was her contact lenses. Sophia originally wore glasses but switched to daily disposable contacts for convenience. She often forgot to remove them, assuming the lenses would fall out on their own. When she couldn't find them, she'd simply replace them, thinking they were disposable and not worth worrying about. But the lenses never fell out. They were all lodged in the corners of her eyes. Over time, this caused her excruciating headaches. The team doctor used cotton swabs to remove them one by one. They expected just 1 or 2, but more and more emerged like a train in India. Ultimately, they extracted 18 lenses. Her husband couldn't believe his eyes. The doctor mentioned another case where 33 lenses were removed. Emma finally felt reborn. She joked that all her lost contact lenses had been recovered. Daniel became the latest victim of a vending machine. At first, his snack got stuck. He tried shaking the machine, but the metal beast wouldn't budge an inch. Then he had a wild idea. He stuck his arm into the dispensing slot, trying to muscle the snack out. But going in was easy. Getting out was hard. Daniel's arm went in and couldn't come out. A chance for rescue presented itself, but he completely missed it. After his co-worker left, he tried every position to free himself, but his arm only got more stuck. Hours flew by, yet Daniel stubbornly refused to call for help. Coincidentally, many co-workers walked right past him without noticing anything amiss. It wasn't until evening, after everyone had left the company, that Daniel finally snapped and broke free. But the vending machine lunged back, pinning him down once more. In the end, it was the patrolling security guard who called the fire department. Daniel, this guy, was truly suffering for the sake of pride. By then, his blood pressure had plummeted to 60/30, and his heart rate spiked to 120. The captain diagnosed crush syndrome. While trapped, toxins had accumulated in his limbs. Once freed, they would rush straight to his heart. Daniel was filled with regret. He should have let go of his pride earlier. When the firefighters finally freed him, the toxins erupted instantly, and his heart stopped beating. 2 attempts at defibrillation proved futile. This outcome was unbearably heavy. Life offers no second chances. Meanwhile, the 118 team barely had time to catch their breath. A young boy sprinted wildly, with 118 firefighters hot on his heels. The incident began when the 9-year-old brother, playing hide and seek, climbed into the laundry chute of an old apartment building. He fell from the 5th floor and became stuck on the 2nd floor. When Jack discovered the boy, his cervical spine was severely fractured, and he had completely lost the ability to breathe on his own. The crew immediately began frantically drilling through the concrete wall using hydraulic cutting tools. The mother, who had been out shopping, just returned home and saw her younger son crouched on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. As she rounded the corner, she witnessed firefighters cutting open the passageway to reveal her older son's pale, lifeless face. Captain Henny held the nearly fainting mother tightly. Every crew member gave their all to clear a rescue passage, but the hospital ultimately declared the rescue unsuccessful. Days later, this resilient mother visited the fire station. Carrying a photo of her son, she shared that his greatest dream was to become a firefighter, requesting the photo be permanently displayed at the station. Gazing at the boy's radiant smile in the photograph, the entire 118 team was overcome with profound guilt. The shadow of losing the boy hung heavy over every member, yet the call for help would not cease because of their grief. A sudden blaze erupted at the paper mill. As Jimmy attempted to shut down the rolling press, his entire arm was pulled inside. When the emergency team arrived, he was still asking if his crew members were safe. The captain swiftly ordered Carlos to apply a tourniquet and Nancy to prepare the defibrillator. But Jimmy suddenly lost consciousness. His heart rate skyrocketed while his blood pressure plummeted to 55/30. The captain urgently asked how long backup would take, but the response was that they were understaffed and still en route. Even more terrifying, while Marion and the others were containing the fire, they discovered the pulping room's digester was sounding frantic alarms. Filled with wood chips and chemicals, the machine was violently shaking. On the verge of exploding, Jade immediately ordered a full evacuation. Captain Owen instructed Carlos and Nancy to evacuate first, demanding they locate Jade and send help for Jimmy. But Jade bellowed into the radio, ordering Owen to evacuate immediately. Because Jimmy still had a pulse, Owen refused to abandon the casualty. Jade could only grab a crowbar and charge into the fire. After reuniting, Judd tried to pry open the roller compactor, but the machine wouldn't budge. Owen decided on immediate amputation. Saving his life was more important than saving his arm. Judd swung his fire axe, severing the limb in one blow. Just 2 seconds after the three burst out of the factory, the entire building erupted into a fiery inferno. The most heartbreaking outcome was that Jimmy ultimately couldn't be saved. While Judd and Owen became completely estranged over the rescue decision, Judd reported to headquarters that Owen had disobeyed the evacuation order. Captain Owen, in turn, resented Judd for snitching. So the question arises, should they have insisted on saving the casualty like Owen did? Or should they have prioritized team safety like Judd did? Which choice do you think was the right one?